I already know what you're thinking. Wow, you're actually doing a movie review on a movie that's not Marvel or DC related? Yes. Yes, I am. Not only do I kind of want to try some new things, but also this movie was like really good and I wanted to talk about it. So I thought, you know what? Why not? I'm just going to get on and talk about it. And yes, that movie being The Gorge. Yeah, this feels weird. Not Marvel or DC, but let's just talk about it the best I can. I am super late to this. I'm not posting this like close to release. Heck, I didn't even really watch it close to release. But I did, however, get around to watching this twice, which kind of hard to believe. I feel like I'm not able to do that, especially on movies that don't go to theaters. So yeah, let's talk about The Gorge. Where to start? I guess we should just start with what was like why I thought this movie was great, because I did. I thought this movie was great. Even on second viewing, I thought it was really good. And part of me was kind of worried, because like I loved it after that first viewing, and part of me was a little worried, like, okay, now I know what the twist is. I know where things are gonna go. Am I gonna love it just as much on second viewing? The answer is yes. I don't think I liked it as much as viewing one, but but it's not like I went from I love this movie to this movie's dumb. I just went from I really love this movie to I love this movie, pretty much. Because yeah, I thought this movie was great. And a big reason for why I thought this movie was so great is because of our two leads. Anya Taylor-Joy and Miles Teller are just amazing in this movie. They are like awesome, and their chemistry with each other is amazing. Even but when they're not able to talk to each other, they just have to write words on a notepad or on a whiteboard, and they have to communicate from thousands of miles apart. They somehow still, even with that, have like amazing chemistry, and it's just like awesome. These two, I swear, I could not stop smiling every time these two were interacting, especially in that first act. Whatever they were doing just put a smile on my face. All of the shenanigans that they did, talking to each other, playing chess with each other, celebrating Christmas with each other, playing makeshift drums with each other. And then once they get together, I still couldn't help but smile when they dance with each other, when they're just talking, like actually able to talk with their voices. It's just these two are just awesome, and I want to see another movie with these two. Like, it doesn't, I'm not saying I want a Gorge 2. Actually, I don't really want them to make a sequel to this, just because I think that movie ends perfectly, and it's great as a one-off. I don't think we should get a sequel to this movie as good as it was. But I do want to see Anya Taylor-Joy and Miles Teller in another movie, co-starring in another movie. I don't care what it is. It could be a rom-com. It can be action. It can be a thriller. I don't care. Just put them in a movie together because as co-leads, because they are amazing. And speaking of like the just pure joy I got, I wasn't only smiling. There were a couple of times that I laughed out loud, whether it was just from whether specific jokes or just them interacting. Like, it was just so fun. And the movie also does a great job because a big portion of this movie is the fact that they're hired to keep watch of this gorge, but on two different sides of it, so they're like thousands of miles apart. And when they start interacting with each other through like these binocular things, at least I myself just could not wait for them to actually be able to talk to each other with their voices, be able to actually be near each other. But I also couldn't help but wonder like if it would be at all awkward, just because I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you get to see each other, but it's almost like you guys only texted the entire time you knew each other. Because I mean, you think about it, same basic concept of how they're communicating, writing words and then reading what the other one wrote. It's pretty much texting. So part of me couldn't help but wonder if it was gonna be at all awkward. It wasn't. I think they could have done that if they wanted to. It wasn't. That's okay. I just
gas truck blows up, it'll take out the whole block.
Just something I realized that I was curious about. But yeah, like I was mentioning, I was actually very invested in these characters and in these two, mainly because of the actors portraying them. But like, I actually cared about them. I actually desperately wanted them to get out of the film alive, because once we get into that second act and third act, on my first viewing, there were a couple times where it's like, oh, please survive, please survive. Because I won't lie to you, because of how much I loved these characters and wanted them together, there was a part of me that was wondering, like, oh no, this is most likely a one-off. Scott Derrickson has directed a lot of horror movies. And will he actually let me be happy and let both of them survive and live happily ever after? I couldn't fight the feeling that they were gonna kill off one of the two characters. So that I had that throughout the majority of the film. That was really well done. The fact that I cared so much about these characters. I don't know why Spider-Man is floating, by the way, but I cared so much about these characters that I really wanted them to survive, and not only survive the events of the movie, but I also actually wanted them to end up together, happily ever after. That the whole cheesy. It's cheesy, I don't care. That's what I wanted for these two, which is also weird because I'm not really a big fan of romance movies. I'm just, you know. Occasionally, when they mix genres with something else, I find myself enjoying them. For example, I loved The Fall Guy last year, and that was like an action rom-com. I actually really like that. So, but even with me not being the big fan of romance films, I thought that this movie was great, and the entire first half is a romance movie, and it was done great, and it was honestly probably the best part of the movie, which is kind of surprising to say. I also wanted to say, I think they used the PG-13 rating really well as well. That's something that I feel like that it's just something I've noticed. Certain movies are good with their ratings, others are not. Because like I never at all in this movie felt that it needed to be rated R. Because I think it would have been a mistake if they made this movie rated R. But it also never felt watered down. Like, it never felt like, oof, that's so obviously censored, so they didn't have to, so they could keep the PG-13 rating. No, it felt necessary and earned, and it made sense. So I'm just pointing that out. I thought they did a great job using the rating. They let the violence be violent, but not like overly violent where it was unnecessary and stuff like that. So I just thought that was interesting how well they did that. Also, kind of a side note, I really liked how that once they got into the gorge in the second half of the movie, I actually did like how they did some of the coloring while down there, where like the fog was like the fog, the atmosphere was like different colors. I thought that was enjoyable as well. I don't have too many negatives about this movie. I think if I really wanted to, like if I had my notepad, well, actually I use my phone, but whatever. If I had my notepad out the entire time I was watching the movie, and I wrote down every single time I noticed like a little flaw, a little nitpick. There are a couple of nitpicky things I think in this I could nitpick if I wanted to, but to me the negatives aren't big enough to affect my viewing of the movie. I still had a blast watching it. There wasn't too much. Like, there are some things there's a couple of times where I feel like Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy, like, how do they know when to look at each other? When the other one is writing on the pad? Because I felt like there were a couple of times where because it looks like obviously they're using the binocular things because they can't see each other because of how far away it is. But there are a couple of times where it's like they knew when to look because they knew when they were writing on the pad and stuff like that. I could nitpick that because that was like, if you can't see them, how do you know when to look? How do you know that they can see you reacting and things like that? But to me, it wasn't enough to like affect my enjoyment of the film. But one thing I have to say is, why the heck did this movie not go to theaters? Come on, Apple. What is wrong with you? The fact that this movie was not in theaters, I wish I could have seen this in a theater with a bunch of other people, with a huge screen with surround sounds. I was able to make do with what I had. So at least I was able to somewhat mimic the theater experience the best I could with what I have, but it's still nowhere nearly as good as an actual movie theater, especially in IMAX or Adobe. Imagine, ooh, that would have been so cool to see us in that. But no, I have no idea why they didn't release this movie to theaters, but they didn't, and, you know, yeah. I'm going to dive into some mild spoilers if I haven't already. So if you haven't seen it, click away, come back after you've seen it. I will say I do think you should watch this movie. But just a few things I wanted to bring up. Like, for example, because I didn't want to... I tried my best not to say if they survive or not when I was doing spoiler-free. Obviously, they do survive, both of them, which made me happy. Which, part of me did wonder, now that I do know that they both survive, will that affect the suspense and how I was on the edge of my seat on my second viewing? And it did a little bit, because I knew they were both going to survive. It was still thrilling enough that I was, like, very engaged and very into the film when the thrilling stuff was happening. Ooh, look, a box. So even though, unlike my first viewing, I wasn't constantly at the edge of my seat because I didn't know who was going to live and who was going to die, but it was still thrilling enough that I was engaged and I was glued to the screen when watching. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying about them being me liking these characters so much and actually wanting them to be together. Because when they actually got out of the gorge, there was a part of me that was like, oh, just run away together. Just the two of you run away. Let someone else deal with this. But obviously they can't do that, because the right thing to do is to get rid of the gorge, because they can't let people be dying. Because it also shocked me, because I don't even have this in my notes, I'm just talking now. When Miles Teller first enters and he's getting briefed by his predecessor, the predecessor leaves, the people who hired them pick him up, and then once he confirms his identity, they shoot him. Which shocked me. I was like, huh, would you look at that? Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy were doomed to die no matter what, because they were just going to kill him after the rotation was over. So that's great. But yeah, so I really enjoyed this movie. I wanted to point out that the second act especially did really remind me of The Last of Us. So I've been playing through that recently, possibly for the first time, and watching the show. I finished the first game, playing through the second game. I watched the first season. It's really good, but so dark and violent. So, and I couldn't help but feel like it was very inspired by Last of Us. Still PG-13. The Last of Us is so not PG-13. But it does feel like a PG-13 inspired version of The Last of Us to me, with like these plant zombie creatures. Kind of remind me of the infected and the clickers from Last of Us. Not nearly as scary in my opinion, but still. That's another flaw that I feel like I could mention if I wanted to, is that I feel like they were going for a horror-like vibe once we hit the second act. But to me, it was never, like, super scary. I won't lie, there are some jump scares that, even though I, like, saw it coming, like, I was like, the jump scare's gonna happen right about now, isn't it? And then it happens, and it shouldn't have got me because I knew it was coming. I even called it out before it happened, and yet I still jumped. Gosh dang it, I don't know why it got me. But I won't lie, it definitely feels like they were going for a horror feel for the second act. It just wasn't that scary. It could have been scarier. But I'm okay with the fact that it wasn't, because it made it a bit easier to watch. It is cool because it really did feel like they were going for different genres in each act, at least to me. Like Act 1, it felt like they were definitely going for this romance type movie with Anya Taylor-Joy and Miles Teller interacting with each other, which was probably the best part of the film. And then Act 2 is when they finally fall into the gorge, and it definitely feels like they were going for like a horror, suspense, action type genre, where they're trying to escape the gorge, and there's all these like monster creatures coming after them with some pretty cool designs and kind of creepy, with like these plant men, and these giant spider skull things, and even. And to me, the grossest one was, I don't even know what they were supposed to be. I don't remember. It was like this living, breathing, like, goo people that was just, like, so disturbing. That was down there, too. And that's not even mentioning, I forgot when Miles Teller first falls down there. First, he interacts with what seem to be, like, giant, like, these giant bug things, and then he falls out of the tree into what's almost like a giant monster fly trap with sharp teeth that's trying to eat him. And it's just like, yeah, I could definitely tell they were going for like a horror type vibe with the genre. And then they eventually get out of the out of the gorge, and then they have to deal with the government people who are like, these two, they know too much about the gorge, they know our secrets, and now we gotta go kill them ourselves. And our main character's like, well, we gotta destroy the gorge, that way people stay safe. And it feels like a more like a action, an action, maybe even political thriller. I'm not sure if I'd go that far, but an action genre. And I think it does all three very well, but it does do the first act in that romantic genre the best, surprisingly. But it's probably partially because of how good Anya Taylor-Joy and Miles Teller are in this film, in these roles, with each other. It's great. Also, I liked how they kept bringing up the poem, because like they show that Miles Teller's character is a poem writer. He writes poems. We see when he's interacting with Anya Taylor-Joy that he writes a poem about her, and then when they finally meet up, Anya Taylor-Joy is like, "Did you ever write? You should write a poem for me." And Miles Teller's like, "I might have already." She's trying to get him to tell him it. He refuses because he claims it's bad. He only tells her the title later on when Miles thinks that they might die. He's like, "I want to tell you something." And Anya Taylor-Joy's like, "Is it your poem?" And he's like, "Yeah, no." But then he gives her an envelope that says if he doesn't make it, to open it. And when she does open it, because she thinks he's not gonna make it, it's the poem. I wish we could have seen the whole poem. I didn't even read it because I would have had to hit pause, and I was too invested in the movie, I guess. But you had to hit pause, and it was only like half the poem. So I kind of wish we could have seen the whole thing. But you know, whatever. Keep it between them, I guess. Miles Teller's character did say he didn't think it was good, so I guess. Although I will say it is kind of funny, I do keep referring to them as Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy, so I don't know if that's really a good or a bad thing, because you could make the argument that could be a bad thing, that the characters weren't good enough for me to remember their names. Do I remember their names? Oh yeah, Miles Teller is Levi, and Anya Taylor-Joy is Drasa. Totally didn't just look that up. Totally remembered. So that could be viewed as a good or a bad thing. I keep referring to them as the actors' name instead of the character names, because yeah. Also, I won't lie, this has nothing to do with the movie, but I want to say it. And because the Anya Taylor-Joy character, has an accent, I think it's a Russian accent. I think that's why it reminded me so much, but I could be wrong. I'm not good with that kind of stuff. But with her accent sounded so similar to the accent she had in the New Mutants. And even though I've seen her in other things, and I haven't pictured Ileana Magic, I couldn't help but see her, but be a couple times in the movie, be like, "Hey, look, it's Magic from the New Mutants," and I can't help but feel this. Kevin Feige, bring Anya Taylor-Joy back as Magic. Whether she's the main player in the MCU or just a role in Secret Wars, because that's going to be a multiverse movie, bring her back as Magic. She was a great Magic. She looks the part. She sounds the part. She's great at playing the character. Like, just do it, man. I've seen a bunch of people on the internet agree with me. It's not just me. I'm not just crazy, I don't think. Maybe I am. But still, it's not just me. So bring her back as Magic. Just do it. I couldn't help myself every time a couple times in this movie, because she has a similar accent or the same accent, I can't tell. I just was like, oh, she is Magic. Maybe I am crazy, because I'm finally reviewing a movie that's not a Marvel movie, and I'm still able to tie it into Marvel. But it's not my fault. I mean, Anya Taylor-Joy has played Magic, Ileana Rasputin, and Miles Teller even played Mr. Fantastic. Both movies were not received very well. Both movies are considered bad. But still, I actually did like the New Mutants for the most part. the Fantastic movie that Miles Teller was in, not so much. But still, why am I talking about Marvel? We're supposed to be talking about a movie that's not Marvel, and here I am talking about Marvel. Can you tell what I love? Because I end up talking about it even when I'm not supposed to be. But yeah, that's what I want to talk about. I think I gave you most of my thoughts. One more thing I wanted to bring up. I've been talking for way too long, so I'm gonna try to hurry up. But something I didn't notice while watching the movie is I could very easily see them adapting this story into another medium, like a TV show or a video game. Because there are a couple of times where like a scene would happen, and I was like, that could be like the ending to an episode. Like you could have an episode setting up Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy's getting to the Gorge and interacting, and then that could be the end of that could be like the one full episode, and then the second episode could end with them falling into the Gorge. And then you could have a couple of different multiple episodes inside the Gorge, have an episode end with them getting out of the Gorge, and then have a few episodes of them trying to destroy the Gorge. And heck, if you wanted to, because they eventually get separated and they have to find their way back to each other, have a couple episodes of them trying to get back to each other. So I could see it being that, but I also could see it being a video game too, if they wanted to, especially the second act when they are inside the Gorge. There are a couple of times where it's like, this feels like it could be a video game level. So, and there is a part of me that was like, I kind of want them to do the story in a TV format or in a video game format, but then I'm also like, well, will I actually like it, because it will probably be different actors, and part of the reason why this movie is so good is because of Anya Taylor-Joy and Miles Teller. So if they're not in it, will it really be that good? I don't know, but I would probably watch the show and play the video game. So maybe that's one of the reasons why, though, it felt like a video game, was because I compared that second act to The Last of Us a couple times. It felt similar, okay? Don't judge me. So I was editing, and I almost forgot to mention one of the notes I did write down, is that I also really liked the score and the soundtrack for this movie as well. I thought all the songs that were used were really good and were used really well, and even the score was really good. Not like one of the best scores ever, but I thought it was great, and it worked very well with the scenes that they paired them with. Actually, one more thing, still from editing. Wow, even when I'm done recording, I still have more I want to say. I also find it hilarious that Anya Taylor-Joy is back to playing chess. I saw the interview where she said that she was like, oh man, I'm back to playing chess again. I just find that hilarious. If you don't know, Queen's Gambit, which was also a good show. So to me, that was funny. Maybe now I'm actually done. Okay, I think I've been talking for like way too long. So I think I should wrap it up. I believe that's everything I really wanted to say. Overall, I thought the movie is great. I was really shocked by it too, because I heard it was good. So I was like, you know what? Let me check this movie out. I want to see if it's as good as people say. Got a good cast, and people were right. It was great. So yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you like this video, please hit like. If you want to see more videos like it, well, let me know, because I think this is my very first movie review that's not Marvel or DC related. So should I review more movies that aren't Marvel or DC? I kind of want to. I might this year. I want to try to. But also, I've done a lot of Marvel DC reviews. Go check those out in rankings. I got a bunch of stuff like that. I think the main time I didn't do Marvel DC was when I ranked every single movie I saw in 2024. So you should check that one out, because that one was awesome. It was a 2-part video. But yeah, I should stop talking. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought of this movie, if you saw it, down below in the comments. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was okay? Real quick, if I were to give this a should you watch it in theaters segment, I would say yes, go see this in theaters. But because it's not in theaters, it's on streaming, I do think you should go watch it. Check it out. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. I gotta stop talking. It's going too long. Bye.